Hey everybody, it's Yasmin here. I'm really sorry I'm late. I just did my chanting and then I opened up Instagram and I just got lost in the messages and started emailing people who've been messaging me on Instagram. So how are you? I'm pretty good. Had a really fun online party with Hay House last night and drank alcohol for the first time in I don't know how many weeks or months, so that I didn't feel very good because alcohol and I don't love each other. Right, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take up where I left off yesterday, which was talking about Jupiter and Saturn. Because, so yesterday Jupiter changed signs and yesterday Saturn changed signs and tomorrow Jupiter changes signs. So I wanted to go right back to basics and to talk about what it all means, because yesterday I realized that I was assuming knowledge that some people, even though they're into astrology or into watching me, don't know. And I realized, okay, and in fact I'll tell you a funny thing that happened. This is my diary for next year, which we still have a few copies left, so snap it up. It's a limited edition. This is it. Once they go, they go. I was editing, so this is for 2021, but I'm actually editing right now the one for 2022. And in it, the editor had asked a few questions, which I said, they're so basic, come on. People know that. And afterwards I went back downstairs and I actually changed it and I actually spoke to the editor and I said, you know what, I've realized that I'm assuming too much knowledge. I'm assuming that because people watch me, they already know the basics, and they don't necessarily, so that's good to know. So here we go. So I want to just go over some basics about what this whole Jupiter Saturn thing is about. And as I said yesterday, I do have this free PDF, which unfortunately I printed very small when I printed it, but it should print out normally for you, or just look at it on the computer. And there's a link to it up there for the freebie. So here's the basic news, okay? So at the moment that you were born, obviously the planets were somewhere, the planets were somewhere. So maybe the sun was in Sagittarius, so you're a Sagittarius, or maybe the sun was in Gemini, so you're a Gemini, and right now, someone who's born right now, if you took a snapshot of the planets right now, that is basically your birth chart. And it's oriented by your rising sign, okay? So that's why I'm always going on about your rising sign, because your rising sign basically is the orientation point. So imagine a baby. There's somewhere in the world right now, there's a baby being born right now, okay? Right now. Bing! And so the planets are all in particular places. Like if I didn't look at where everything is right now, but basically one thing we know for sure, we know that they will have Saturn in Aquarius, because Saturn moved into Aquarius yesterday. So on their birth chart, there'll be a little symbol for Saturn, which is like an H with a line through the top of it. They'll have Saturn with the like waves of Aquarius. So they'll have Saturn in Aquarius. They will also have, by the way, Jupiter, we know, they will have Jupiter in Capricorn. They'll also have Pluto in Capricorn, because Pluto's staying in Capricorn for a while. Jupiter's is at like 29 Capricorn, and will change tomorrow, okay? So the planets are all in a particular place. It's a 360-degree circle. So you imagine you go out, someone's just been born, you look up at the skies, and with a 360-degree camera, because remember the planets are all around us. They're not just all above us, even though sometimes it feels like they are. You would take a 360-degree photo and you go, okay, they've got Sun in Sagittarius, they've got Mercury in, say, I don't know, Capricorn, they've got Venus in, Sagittarius again, maybe, or whatever, and maybe they've got Moon in, Aquarius. I think the Moon is in Aquarius today. It would just be a chart to show where the planets are. So that's your birth chart. It's a chart for where the planets were on the day that you were born, set for the day, the exact time, and place, okay? So it's a pretty personal thing. Now, what happens next? Well, despite the fact that obviously your birth was a momentous occasion, which we have enshrined in your birth chart, guess what? The planets keep moving, okay? They just keep moving. Like we literally take that snapshot of your chart of the moment that you were born, and then the planets just keep moving, because tomorrow or in the next hour or the next minute, someone else will be born and someone else will be born and someone else will be born. And so as the planets go around, we take the snapshots, and that creates your birth chart. Now, what's happening right now is that the planets are changing signs. So what it is, it's like the signs are the constellations that are up in the skies that only change extremely, extremely slowly, okay? We won't get into that right now, but basically, you know, the zodiac is an imaginary line that we draw through all these constellations. So as the Earth moves around the sun, we kind of get different backdrops, okay? And so what it is, the planets have backdrops, and they are the zodiac signs. So we know the 12 zodiac signs, you know, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer or Moonchild, as I like to call it, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay, so all the planets keep moving. Now, I'll give you one example because it's a really good example, because nearly everyone's heard of this one. So you're born, okay, this kid that's just been born today has Saturn at 0 degrees of Aquarius, because Saturn has literally just moved into Aquarius. Okay, so on their birth chart it says Saturn 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, what's happening? Saturn's still moving, okay? Saturn stays in each sign for about 2+ years, okay? Now, what happens is, so there's their Saturn on their chart. We've marked it, like on the photo, the diagram, but in reality, Saturn, of course, was only there very briefly for that moment in time, and keeps moving as we go around the sun, and Saturn goes around the sun and all this. So Saturn keeps moving and goes around, spending about 2 and a bit years in each sign, okay? So it goes through Aquarius, it will be in Aquarius about 2 or so years, then it will be in Pisces for 2 or so years, then it will be back to the start of the zodiac, Aries, then Taurus, Gemini, Moonchild, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. And then what's going to happen when it returns to Aquarius? That's when you get your, I can hear some of you saying it. That's when you get your Saturn return, okay? So that's what happens. The planets just keep moving. And what we do in astrology is we compare where they are now to when they were born. So just say if you were born with Saturn in Leo, okay? Saturn in Leo. The Saturn return comes about 30 years after. It takes about 29, 30 years for Saturn to go all the way through all the 12 signs, going all the way around the chart through all the signs, because we all have all 12 signs in our chart, as I'm always saying. And then after about 29 years, it comes back and you have your Saturn return. Now, just say you were born with Saturn in Leo, okay? And I can't think off the top of my head. If I can work it out, let me see. I guess that would be 15 years ago, thereabouts. So maybe some, I mean, don't quote me on this, but you know, someone who was born, say, in about 2005, you know, who's about 15 now, maybe. Don't quote me, because I would need to look, because it's not exact, it's not like the planets are exactly to our timing or to Earth timing, the way we measure it. It's it's the solar system, has its own time. But anyway, about 15 years ago, you'd be having Saturn in Leo, and so what happens now? Leo and Aquarius, for example, are opposite signs, okay? Aquarius is opposite Leo. So I'll just run through the oppositions for you, because this is really good to know when you're learning astrology. So Aries is opposite Libra. Taurus is opposite Scorpio. Gemini is opposite Sagittarius. Cancer is opposite Capricorn. Leo is opposite Aquarius. And Virgo is opposite Pisces, okay? So if you've got, and you have these axes, okay? I mean, I don't even know why I'm explaining this at the moment, but I'll just say it anyway. So, someone who was born with Saturn in Leo about 15 years ago, or about 30 years before that, or 30 years before that, because Saturn takes about 30 years to go around the chart. So right now, if Leo and Aquarius are opposite signs, then that person will be having Saturn opposite Saturn. So transiting Saturn, which is Saturn right up in the skies right now, which has just moved into the sign of Aquarius, will be opposite Saturn, where Saturn was when they were born, okay? And that has all its own implications, and that's, kind of interesting to study, but I'm not going to go into it right now. But it happens to everyone at about, anyway, it happens at about 15 or so, 14 or 15 for everybody. And, that's sometimes why teenage years can be a bit of a thing, because you've got Saturn opposite Saturn. And that happens to everybody, because Saturn takes, X amount of time, about 30 years to go around the chart. So at about 15, it's about opposite. So you get the first Saturn opposition, which is when, children can sometimes become a little bit anti-authoritarian, for example. Famously, teenagers are anti-authoritarian. Anyhow, so what I'm trying to explain is this, okay? So you understand the concept of the birth chart. It's the snapshot for when you were born. The rising sign is the anchor point, okay, of your first house, because the circle is divided into 12. The first house, which is your appearance and how you come across. The second house, cash, property and possessions. Third house, communications. Fourth house, home and family. Fifth house, creativity, romance and kids. Sixth house, daily work and health. Seventh house, love, romance, actually also open enemies. Eighth house, basically sex and money. Ninth house, travel, adventure, the great cosmic quest to find meaning, philosophies. 10th house, career, ambitions, how you make your mark. 11th house, friends and networks. 12th house is your fears, but also your spirituality, your unconscious. And so what happens is all these planets are always like, that's your chart, taken the snapshot for when you were born. And then, as I said, the planets keep moving. And what they're effectively doing is they're going through these different houses of your chart. Okay, so you might have Saturn, it goes through your first house, or wherever, just say if you were born with Saturn in the first house. So it goes through your first house, it goes through your second house, goes through your third house, fourth house, home and family, fifth house, romance, creativity and kids. And what Saturn does is it tests you, okay? Which is why after 30 years, after it's gone through your love zone, so you have you learn the truth about how it is to be in relationships, and your 10th house career and 11th house friends and so on. And then eventually it comes back to where it was when you were born, and you have, as we said, your Saturn return. But what's actually happened there is that Saturn has tested you in every single part of your life. And Saturn is like the headmaster of the zodiac. So it makes a lot of sense that in some ways, Saturn's return to where you were when you were where you were born is in some ways like, it's a big deal, because it's like, in some ways it's a bit of a report card. Like you've been tested in every part of your life, because everything you can possibly think of in the whole wide world is in the birth chart, okay? And so you've been tested in every part of your life over the first 30 years of your life, and that's why the Saturn return is a big deal, because it's like, Okay, you've been tested. You've seen what you're made of. You've shown how resilient you are. Okay? So that's why it's so important to find out where Saturn is for you right now. So we know yesterday Saturn moved into the sign of Aquarius. So it hasn't been, apart from a few little flip-flop retrogrades earlier this year before this like definitive move where it's now going to stay for 2 and a bit years, it hasn't been there for 30 years, okay? So it doesn't, I mean, assuming you're at least 30 years old, you know, you're going to get tested in this part of your life. Now, and then tomorrow Jupiter's moving into that same part of your chart. So now what you need to do is you need to know which part of your chart it's moving into, okay? And how do you find that out? Well, all you need to do is you need to know your rising sign, and then it all makes sense. So basically, if you are Aries or Aries rising, we know it's moving. I'm just going to say the rising signs, okay? Find out your rising sign. You can do that in 5.5 nanoseconds on the internet these days, all right, if you know your birth time. So if you're Aries rising, it's moving into your 11th house. If you're Taurus rising, listen, it's in the PDF before I go through it all, okay? It's in the PDF. Kim de Moss Spicer says, I learned more about all of this in the last 10 minutes than I ever knew in my whole life. Excellent. Good. So it's all in the free PDF, okay? All right, so Melissa says, more tests or reaping rewards. Well, the thing is that what's sort of like the curveball of what's happening this week is that Saturn moved into Aquarius yesterday, but highly unusually, Jupiter is moving into Aquarius tomorrow, okay? It's massive. It's massive. So it's just a big change of energies, okay? So if you've been feeling really the past few days, you're feeling the energies. And, you know, for some people, it's the end of a really tough cycle because they've had maybe Saturn squaring their Sun or opposing their Sun or squaring their Venus during this long period. And now everything's going to get easier. And for some people, the challenges are starting. Michelle Crawford says, what PDF can someone tell me? There should be a link. There should be a link at the top of the description on here. Is there a link there? And if not, I'll add it after I've finished. So I hope that makes sense. If you're Aquarius rising, it's taking place in your first house, which is the way you come across, and it's the start of a very important new cycle. All right. So, and if you have my diary, you can always find out which house is what, because you just need to look at, for example, in this case, you just look at so in each month, what I do is like, this is for the blue full moon in Aquarius next year. And then down here, there's the thing about the houses. So you can find out which house it's in. Oh, there's no link. Okay, I can give you the link. It's moonmessages.com/JS 2020, Jupiter Saturn 2020. moonmessages.com/JS 2020. Okay, so for Aries, it's your 11th house, all about friends. For Taurus rising, it's your 10th house, which is career. For Gemini rising, it's your 9th house, which is travel, study, and adventures, the great cosmic quest. For moon children, Cancerians, it's your 8th house, so sex and money. For Leos, it's your 7th house, which is love and relationships. For Virgos, it's your 6th house, daily work and health. For what's next? Librans, it's your 5th house, romance, creativity, and kids. For Scorpios, it's your 4th house, which is home and family. Sagittarians, it's your 3rd house. It's where you talk and where you think, express yourself. Where are we? Capricorn, second house, so that's cash, property and possessions. Aquarius, your first house, how you come across in the world. And Pisceans, it's your 12th house, which is the deep, dark, mysterious part of your chart. So the link is, and I will put it up right now, is moonmessages.com/JS2020. And it's a PDF, it's free, and it will tell you all about Jupiter, all about Saturn, how to work out where in your chart it is and what it actually means. And I believe we've also added in there a workshop that I held about this about a month or two ago. So we've slashed the price, but for anyone who wants to find out. And so tomorrow, I think I will hop on, even though it's the weekend, but it is such a massive, massive time. We had the solar eclipse, now we've had Aquarius, Saturn moving into Aquarius yesterday. Tomorrow we get Jupiter, and I just want to I think tomorrow I'll be doing a special Jupiter chant, which I want to give you. The link is there. Thanks, Joan. All right, and then what's going to happen is that Jupiter and Saturn are going to actually be on the same point of the zodiac when Jupiter changes signs, and so we are going to get the Great Conjunction, which is basically when Jupiter and Saturn meet up. It's so big. In fact, they say it was the star that led the three wise men to the stable where Jesus was born. I mean, who knows? But that's what they say. And it's so important. It's cool. It's got a name. I don't think there's many things in astrology, many planetary alignments that have their own name. And this one is called the Great Conjunction. All right. And that's taking place on the 21st. And, it's just, if you want to live consciously and intentionally and align yourself with the planetary energies, like, this is the week to do it. All right. So, yeah, just get the free PDF. All will become clear. And then tomorrow I will get on here and I will talk about, at 11 a.m. UK time. Oh, you want a card as well, yes, of course. And then I will talk about Jupiter. And tomorrow I'm going to give you a really simple Jupiter mantra. And that's like a good luck mantra. So there we go. All right, here's a card. Oh, what have we got? I'm using Colette Baron Reid's Good Tarot. I don't use it that often, actually. All right, I'm still getting to know this deck. It's a really beautiful deck. All right. Oh, there we go. Like, it's perfect, actually, because what I'm doing is I'm explaining really astrology, the basics of how it works. Because yesterday I realized I was talking about Jupiter changing signs and people didn't even know what I was talking about. Just remember, the planets keep moving. So they move through all the signs. So like, the sun, which isn't really a planet and isn't really moving, but it takes 12 months to go through all the signs, which is why, if you're born in February, you're an Aquarius, and if you're born in July, you're a Cancerian, a Moonchild, or you're born in August, you're a Leo. So the sun goes through all the signs over 12 months. Saturn goes through all the signs in about 29 years, okay? So today, Saturn's changing signs. So what you need to know is, what does that do to my horoscope? And that's what the free report's about. So 8 of Earth, apprenticeship, gaining knowledge, learning and employing a new craft or skill. So that's exactly what we're all doing here today. Even masters of their craft have more to learn, and that's 100% true of astrologers. If you're an astrologer, you're a lifelong learner, okay? And I eagerly embrace the opportunity to go deeper, develop a greater understanding, and find new ways to apply what I know. I acknowledge all I've learned and accomplished, the skills I've developed, and the goals I have reached. Now is the time to find new ways to apply what I know to enhance my expertise. My beginner's awkwardness has melted away and I know what I am doing now. I have the confidence to become more intimate with the work in all areas of my life. So that's a perfect card for us today, isn't it? Because you are learning astrology today. You're learning a bit of astrology. Sally Jenkins-Jones, great talk this morning. You can't make this stuff up. The cards are always amazing. I know, I agree. Cards are amazing. All right, so that is it for today. But if you want to, I'll see you back tomorrow at 11:11 a.m. I won't be doing the chanting, but I will come back here at 11. I'll do the chanting just in my own personal time in my PJs. I'll be back on Monday with the chanting for those of you who join me on Zoom. But I will come back here tomorrow and do something about Jupiter, because I really want to give you the mantra. Okay, so Kim DeMoss, everybody else, click the link above, get the free PDF, get the workshop if you want it, and all will start to make sense. All right, I will see you tomorrow.